Hello everyone, you're listening to Northern Flights, a Park Pro podcast keeping you up to date with the people, tournaments, and culture of disc golf in Canada and beyond. Consider becoming a Patreon today at patreon.com/parkpro. Find us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by DiscGolfPark. And now your hosts, Andre, Jesse, and Matt.
Hello, everyone. We are back. We took a break because we were all in Kamloops. So it was a pretty busy week last week.
Oh boy, was it ever.
Yeah. Usually that brings us to our first question is what has everyone else been up to? But I feel like we all know what everyone's been up to because we were all in the same place, hanging out, making some coverage. And it was a blast. But we can kind of get into a little bit more about the camera work and stuff. But Jesse, how did your weekend go?
I had a great time.
Good.
I actually did have a great time, to be honest with you. Been a long time since I was in Kamloops. Obviously, there's some stuff about the disc golf we'll talk about, but all in all, by the time Sunday was over, I was happy. That's how I spent my time and my money. So,
yeah, that's always big.
Yeah.
But you spent money. You didn't make money?
No, I didn't make money.
Yeah.
I missed my putt to win 9 skins against Stu in the pre-tournament fake skins match for $1.
Dang.
So I almost made, what's 9 times 3? Yeah. I almost made $36.
Oh, there you go.
Almost.
Crazy. We did coverage for it. So there's on the coverage side of things, I think when things went really well. Shout out to Sean who came out to do third camera coverage for us, and it sounds like he's going to be sort of our third cameraman going forward. So big shout out to Sean.
It's already back.
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Sean Lefebvre coming in clutch. Everybody's dedicated to this disc golf thing, but are you dedicated enough to run a catch cam for Parked Pro? Only one person is so far, Sean Lefebvre.
Yeah. But we did play some disc golf in between there too. I mean, that's one of the benefits of going to these courses and whatnot is we get to play a little bit. So I got to play Rose, and then I got to play around with Matt actually at MacArthur. And I already forget who was on our card. Sean, you, me, Jeremy?
Jeremy came out.
Jeremy, that's right. Awesome. Yeah, and it was fun. I mean, that course suits my distance, so I'm always happy to go there and play. It's nice to escape the trees of the Rockies every once in a while, I'll say.
Yeah, the variety is definitely a breath of fresh air because there really isn't much that does it that way nearby. I'm trying to think. Like we got to play the Rocket Bear Mission Hills.
Yeah.
Between that, you got to go to the big city.
Yeah.
And even
Park
then,
golf.
Yeah, it's just park golf, and there's wooded holes on almost all the city park courses too. So I think that's the most open I've played in maybe a couple of years even.
Yeah, totally. We're gonna try not to spoil the results of the MPO and FPO, but we are gonna go through some of the other results there. And also in this episode, we're going to debrief a little bit on the skins match. Again, no spoilers, but we're going to chat about it a little bit and hype that up. And then we got Jonesboro Recap, a preview of the OTB, and just a little bit of other Canadian news with other tournaments going on in the area. So, let's start with the TCO. We'll start with, obviously, the first day, which was an interesting day for the whole field because, Jesse, you had a bit of an earlier time. And the weather was kind of whack. Like we were at our Airbnb, and shout out to Justin and Elizabeth as well, DeVries, for putting us up. for the weekend. That was huge for us. And but yeah, we were sitting there and like the wind was howling, it was pouring rain, and we're like, well, sucks to play right now. Hopefully this clears up. And we were mostly thinking for our cameras, but you know, little did we think about poor little Jesse playing in this rain and windstorm.
Yeah, it actually wasn't raining. That was me crying, and those are tears coming down at an angle from Rose Hill hitting your Airbnb. Yeah, it was it was pretty tough out there. And I think without belly aching too much about it, Stu McKissick said it the best way, is that MP50, MP40 had the entire windstorm for the entire division, so it was fair game. Where MPO, my tee time started 3 minutes after the wind, and it was my entire front nine. But by the time my front nine was over, the wind had stopped, and there was still maybe 6 cards of MPO to go out. They got perfect conditions, so it kind of skewed the division's competitiveness and fairness a little bit. It's an unfortunate thing, but if you tell me that there's a tournament director's kit where you get to control the weather, I will be putting the big bucks down to have that myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think in my group, the best score off the front nine was +7. And the leading MPO scores were 10 down. And I had very good players in my group as well. So a little bit spicy and maybe a little salty about that one. And like I said, by the end of Sunday, I was really happy with everything. By the end of Friday, I was like, if I start walking now, man, I could probably get to Sorrento by Saturday. And yeah, it was a bit of a tough break there.
Yeah.
The same thing happens in ball golf all the time, and we were talking about tee times a while ago, I think, off the podcast, because we were like, "Hey, how do tournaments set the cards?" And it's the website puts cards together, right? And you have to apply for an exemption to have like specifically the players that you want on a feature card. And now I kind of have a better appreciation of why that is, because weather is always going to be different, not to this degree, but the weather is always going to be different from, you know, especially when you have like 80, 90, 100, 120 people in the division, right? So there's got to be some level of fairness in the first round.
Yeah. And like you said, how do you do it? You can delay it, but when you have so many players going through the course, daylight is at a premium, and I don't think there's really anything you could have done about that, especially with how sporadic it was. It went from light drizzle and about 10-kilometer-an-hour wind to stronger drizzle, like the rain wasn't terribly strong, to probably about 50, 60 kilometer consistent with some gusts that were pushing 10 or 20K harder than that. And then it just died and was almost dead still and dried up. It was mind-boggling. I've never seen such an abrupt change and such an abrupt change after in such a short time period.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Well, you might say that the weather got the Parked Pro podcast bump.
Yeah.
Or maybe Parked Pro got the Parked Pro podcast bump.
Yeah, there you go. We definitely appreciated the lack of rain for the feature card and lead cards there, because you know, obviously with the camera gear, it's just much easier to manage when it's not, you know, cold and rainy. So
Well, and managing your investment, essentially. Do you want to break $10,000 for the camera gear? Whether it's from water or because it's slippery or because the wind pushes you when you're standing on a slippery something, it's not something fun to deal with.
yeah, and day 2 at Rose was pretty good as well, for us anyways. And I feel like for the rest of the field, it was you know, it evened out a little bit more. So
Yeah, lightly breezy the whole time, nothing crazy.
yeah, and then day 3 was a little bit drizzly all day, but nothing crazy. So it was a great day or a great weekend for disc golf for 90% of the field or 75% of the field, and but I think all in all, positive feedback from the TCO from the majority of divisions. So
Yeah, and I've got to tell one of my many win stories because people like this one. was hole 4. You throw it with a tailwind to a hillside. And if you go long, it's quite steep. So naturally, I went 40 feet long down the hill. And to throw up the hill, as soon as you break the hillside, there's a very stiff headwind. But you can't throw into it. You have to throw essentially straight up in the air. So that's what I did to get over the hill. And as soon as it crested the hill, the wind caught it like a kite, and it landed about 400 feet down behind me on a 260-foot hole.
Ouchies.
Big yikes. That's the kind of wind we were dealing with.
Yeah.
But yeah, if we want to continue talking about tournament-related stuff, there are definitely some hiccups, but I think managing 400-person A tier, they're as minimal as possible. And yeah, just some things that were maybe a little different than I'd seen before, like changing the order of the course for MPO the night before the tournament.
Yeah.
Something I'd never heard of.
Interesting. I mean, I liked the hole 18, the new hole 18 better. It was, for those that don't know, it's if you go look at the coverage last year, that hole 18 played as the hole 18 again this year. The course did change up. This is, of course, we're talking about MacArthur. The course did change up a little bit from last year, but yeah, that makes for a more entertaining 18 than the previous hole. So
yeah, my thoughts were that's a better hole 18 than the previous 18, but the hole 1 that we got was a worse hole 1, and I think if I was just to play the course, I'd rather have it in the original layout. But with my foot fully in my mouth after saying that, watch the coverage, because the change did lead to some exciting play on the final hole.
Mm-hmm. It did. That's for sure. The last few holes, actually. Very exciting. We can get into some other divisions, though. We won't spoil MPO or FPO, but in MP40, we had friend of the podcast, TK, taking it down.
Thomas Kuhn, Mr. Gateway, gets the A-tier win.
Yeah, that's huge. TK's he's a patron, and that's, I mean, I think that's probably why he won. So,
you know what? I think it came down to be a pretty decent battle at the end, because it's kind of the biggest fish in the division, Stu, that we mentioned earlier, didn't start off well and didn't handle the wind as well as I think he expected to. And yeah, took it within 2, shooting 8 down in the final round to make it interesting for Thomas, but just steady, and yeah, managed to take it down pretty comfortably by the looks of it.
Beat some big names.
Oh, absolutely.
Ryan Watson's been playing well. Chance Stad was out there. Very good player. Jason Popejoy. A lot of good players in MP40 these days. So, and I guess the debate is settled.
Yeah, podcast bump is real, right?
No, I think we were looking at the cash, the projected payouts for his score based on how he finished, and MP40 was the right choice by a considerable margin.
Yeah, nice callback.
The difference between paying for your entire weekend and then some, and maybe paying for a couple of nights at a hotel.
Absolutely. I found this division quite interesting, actually, with how it all shook out. Stu and TK are both kind of front runners based on rating and everything else. But no surprise, Watson in the top 3 after maybe the best start to a season that I've known him to have in the few years I've known him. And Chance Stad actually playing remarkably below his standards. For people that don't know of Chance, he is the MA40 world champion. And when did he finish the tournament? Plus 9 overall, which is wild to me, especially on pretty, straightforward courses. Maybe his original wind round might have been the kiss of death for him like it was for many others, but a surprising +3 at Mac Island on the final round And I don't know if that was just not being in the hunt, hard to get motivated to play well, or what it was. But I was definitely surprised based on the previous pedigree of his play.
Mm-hmm.
Other ones, Popejoy, I'd love to talk about for people that don't know Jason Popejoy. He is a primarily overhand thrower, and there was a couple new triple mandos thrown out at Rose Hill where I saw his name written all over them. But he had some pretty decent rounds, and then when the triple mandos were gone at Mac Island, he really kind of came alive and shot 5 down, which would be the second hottest round at Mac there for his division. So pretty impressive stuff as well. Terry Rigby, who had played AMs at all the tournaments that I've seen, shows up, makes it into the top 5, which, based on how I've seen him play, he's very capable of. And then, the other one that surprised me, GMAC, Jeffrey McNamara, Mr. Castaplass himself, again, shooting +5 at Mac Island, which for a guy that has pretty good touch, I thought he'd be able to land on those islands and kind of do the thing out there.
Mm-hmm.
Lots and lots of surprises.
Definitely. But I mean, we got to give Stu another shout out because he had a hot round in round 3, shooting neg 8 at MacArthur and coming to within a couple strokes of Thomas. So, I mean, that's just, he was making it interesting, chasing him down towards the end. He went on a run of bogey-free golf until hole 16. So,
and do you mind just flipping back to round 2 to see how many places he jumped up?
He was not too far down. He was tied for 4th.
Okay.
But, it's mostly the stroke swing, I think, was the big thing. So.
Yeah, +3 to -5 overall.
Yeah.
And a 10-30 round, which I don't think he's too upset with.
No. Can't be too upset with that. Let's quickly boot through some other winners. Congrats to Dave Ross for taking down MP50. Congrats to Ted for taking MP60 in a division of 1.
I'm surprised they ran that in an A tier, to be honest with you.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. But big shout out to Carver Whitford for taking down the MA1 division. This is a big win for Carver, who is, he's strung together a few big wins in that division. It's nice to see him do well. Young kid from Kelowna, I believe. So
absolutely. And for people that don't know Carver, he's got a condition with his hands where he can't grip the disc normally. But holy, does that ever not stop him from playing the game. Maybe not the furthest throw you've ever seen, but one of the most aggressive putters I've ever encountered, and he's cashing them from everywhere. It's really, really fun to watch him.
Definitely.
Did I tell my Carver story on the podcast before?
I know you didn't. You told me while we were chatting about him. But
yeah, well, apologies, Andre. I was in Kelowna in 2017 on a disc golf trip, and I had a couple of days there, so I decided to pop down to the course, and it was league night. I think it might have been, it was league night. So I paid my fees, and I got drawn into a foursome, and then one of the people there was like, "Oh, don't let the kid get you down." And I was like, "Why would I let a kid get me down? Like on a disc golf course? Like kids are a blast, and I'm imagining it's like the ideal sport for a kid. Like was this kid like crying all over the course?" Like, and it turns out it was Carver, and the reason why he would get me down is because he kicked my ass, and he was like 11 years old.
That's the same Carver.
Yeah. And then, as if that wasn't bad enough, he asked me to do a putting competition after the round, and then beat me, like skunked me in a putting competition, and then asked for a rematch and skunked me again, and then asked for a rematch. I think we had like 6 straight putting competitions after the round. Like, kids never get tired of having fun and beating adults. And at some point I was like, "Oh man, like, I'm sorry, I've got to go back to the hotel room now. I can't
I can't take this anymore."
Yeah. And that was, I think he was 11.
Yeah, he's gained some confidence since being 11, because I remember maybe Falcons Flight 2 years ago, I was playing MPO and not playing very well, and Carver had beaten me by, 3 or 4. He just walks up to me, "How'd you shoot?" I'm like, "I lost 5." And he goes, aren't you in pro? Oh, dude, stop it.
Yeah.
Kids,
Yeah,
man.
that's Carver.
That's like Noah Higgins giving you a nice layup on a 30-foot putt when he was like 16.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're a child.
Yeah. Yeah. To our other divisions at TCO FA1, Elaine Vickers takes the FA1 division. MA40, Randall Parsons. FA40, Gabby Salazar. And yeah, I don't think we need to go too much further.
And we got to meet listeners of the show, Zion White and her father, Steve, and sister Verity. So, and spoiler alert, maybe you might see a couple of them on the show down the road. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. There was a lot of support for what we're doing here there. It was a blast to hear our fans, wanting to come up and say hi and yeah, excited about the podcast and what we're doing. So yeah, it's always nice to see the growth of the sport and the growth of our company as well. So
Yeah, speaking of growth, some other more established players and I were talking about how you used to look at these registration pages and you'd know 90% of the players, and there's like 2 new guys you didn't know about. And how this tournament we looked and like, I don't know, half these people, maybe more. Mm-hmm. And then I was just strolling around MacArthur for my practice round. People walked by and, hey man, love the podcast. And who the heck are you? What?
yeah, celebrity now.
Yeah, I'm a celebrity. But speaking of our listeners, I'm going to put this in now because I've been scheming. I got the pleasure of meeting up with Alien Disc Golf. You can look him up on Instagram. He is a disc dyer in Kamloops. He does a great job. There's some it's mostly his own artwork, and it's kind of more of a heavy metal theme, but there's some other stuff mixed in there as well. And I picked up a couple discs to give away on the podcast. I want to do this fairly early in. I don't have them with me. I'm going to make Andre put them up on the Instagram. And for your chance to win, we're going to have a word. You have to DM the Instagram so that we proved you're listening. What's our word going to be?
We'll say it a little bit later in the podcast.
Oh,
You won't know which word it is, though. It's just going to be one of the words that we say.
Okay, no. Why don't we go like this? The word that you have to DM us is, well, it's actually 3 words, no spaces. Disc Golf Park.
Disc Golf Park.
Golf Park.
Yep.
On Instagram?
On Instagram. Hit us up.
Parked Pro at Instagram. Also, you should just be following us if you're on Instagram.
Well, I mean, it's right there. So, hit the message button, while you're there, hit the follow button if you haven't already. So don't click the unfollow button by accident.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, also check out Alien Disc Golf's Instagram and their dies because they gave us a great deal on the discs. And they look super sharp. There's not a lot of bleeding, super crisp lines. And I love the fact that he does the artwork himself. He's not just printing off files and throwing it through the Cricut.
So we're doing, you said you had a couple? Or
I got 2, and then we got that Thomas Gilbert signed one, but I figure...
We've got
discs to give away as well.
We've got a lot of discs to give away in the next little while. So if you're not subscribed to Instagram, do it
or
now
YouTube,
because we're not going to announce them all on the podcast. Some you're just going to have to be following us on Instagram.
There's going to be a couple where we're just going to hold up a disc on our YouTube on our podcast with a word, and that's the word you're going to have to DM us. It'll be in the middle of the podcast. We'll just hold it up. And you'll have to be watching in order.
That's why I was thinking Instagram, because our poor Spotify guys are going to be like scrambling to scroll through to find what's going on.
Yeah. Well, hey, if they got to go to the YouTube to get it, you may as well subscribe while you're there as well. So
yeah, and I figured we might save a couple for when the TCO coverage drops.
For sure. Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I wanted to make sure we got this Alien Disc Golf shout out because he was a super great guy at the players' party.
It's funny because I also, when I was doing coverage, I was running around with the gimbal. And there's a guy there, and I'm pretty sure it was the same guy. He had his like sponsor sign up, and he's just like holding it up in front of him the whole time. That was great.
Got to respect the hustle.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah. Where can you find Alien Disc Golf?
I'm pretty sure it's at Alien Disc Golf, but I will look that up. I'm already following, so I don't have to know.
Well, there you go.
I feel like in today's trying economy, we should be focusing less on buying a large quantity of discs and maybe start supporting the idea of bespoke artisan discs.
Yeah, definitely.
Get something
Do we
with a
have
nice
bad
die.
service
Treat
down
yourself.
here?
What's that?
Oh, yeah, it's just Alien Disc Golf. No spaces, no underscores, no nothing. Just clean cut Alien Disc Golf. And yeah, you can the display picture is one of his heavy metal skulls that says Alien, and I'm sure that's original artwork as well.
Cool. Very cool.
Sick.
Boom, boom.
I'm excited to check them out. That'll be fun.
And before we move on from the players' party, I need to tell you about the highlight of my whole tournament. Our boy Andre here decides to get up because there's karaoke going on, and he throws down "I'm on a boat" by the Lonely Island without looking at the words once, jumping up, doing gang signs, really, really hammering it. And boy, the place went wild for it. Absolute showstopper. I loved every second of it.
It's all for promotion. I went up there and I told her I'm Andre from Parked Pro. Make sure you say I'm Andre from Parked Pro, and she said it. So.
And it was on this when they announced the song on the screen, it says Andre Parked Pro. No.
It's all about expanding the brand, right? So.
And who's that other dude that was just killing the karaoke?
I don't know who he is.
Cam,
But
I got it. Boom, hit me. I've never seen the guy before in my life, but I think he did like 6 or 7 songs, and he went full send on all of them. So props to Cam.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one of those things that makes TCO great is that they're always trying to improve these player experiences. Last year it was it happened to be at the same time as Brew Loops, which is the beer fest, and this year they had the clubhouse rented out, and they were doing karaoke, and the night before that they were open as well for you get a drink after your round. So
Yeah, and go to these things. Tournament directors and staff put a lot of effort into giving you value-added experiences. What is going on here?
I feel like that was directed at me.
Oh, because you didn't come? No. I was just talking from myself. I'm always hesitant to put the time in for our own tournaments to schedule a players' party because they are criminally underattended for the amount of work people put into them. So even if you just stop by for 15 minutes and a handshake, it means a lot to the people organizing it just to see it come through the door.
yeah, and I mean the karaoke there's quite a few people there, but there was 377 people in the tournament, and there was not 377 people.
Yeah, how many people are in the building? 45?
I'd say they're even a little bit more than that, but yeah, somewhere around there.
10 to 12% attendance. Yeah.
But still, I mean, it was a blast.
Yeah, it was a hoot. I was skeptical because I'm very much not a karaoke guy. I get pretty introverted to that stuff, and I sat front row and clapped, and I still had a great time.
And if you're worried about it affecting your round, they shut down at like 10 o'clock. So I mean, it was great. Okay, we can probably move on from TCO. All I'll say,
we didn't even really talk about the MPO and FPO.
I was just going to say, all we're going to say about MPO and FPO is that we have coverage coming out of MPO. All 3 rounds.
Got Thomas Gilbert, Max Regitnig, Casey Hannemeyer, every Western Canadian top professional that you can think of, and they were duking it out. And there were some unbelievable shots, people throwing it in from all over the place, ace runs, back and forth. It was insane. It was like we don't see a lot of that high level disc golf in Western Canada that often, and it was sweet.
Yeah, and we've got a few tournaments under our belt at Park Pro, and obviously been to a lot more between all of us, and that was some of the best disc golf that I've personally witnessed in person, not just on the MPO side either, but on the FPO side as well, because there was some battles going on there. Shout out, I think we can shout this one out because it's not really a spoiler. It's all over Instagram. Joe Henderson got an ace on hole 2 at MacArthur. That was pretty awesome. And just some great disc golf. So
old
3,
hole 2.
Hole 3. No. Yeah, last year's hole 2. This year's hole 3. Regular hole 4. That's not confusing at all.
Yes. This
hole number 1 in our hearts.
Yeah.
So if you're not following Joe on Instagram, check it out.
But we have final round coverage of FPO. The timing worked out great, and it was kind of a spur of the moment thing. I asked the ladies on after taking some photos after round 2 if they wanted some final round single camera coverage, and they were all about it. So, and there's some up and comers coming, and you got to see some of these ladies throw because they can chuck the disc.
Yeah, for what I saw live on location, I was really, really impressed by the Cala Roof play.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and shout out to my brother. They came out and watched. They came all the way from Vernon and watched a little bit. They watched 8 holes of the FPO coverage. So,
Dang.
yeah, they came out and, Colin and Sadie and their 4 kids. So,
holy
trucking them around.
macaroni, 4 kids.
Yeah, that was cool to see. All right. Can move on to our next topic here, which is a skins match. We're not gonna spoil it. Mostly just want to talk about the fact that I played Raptors for the first time. But I wasn't the only one playing there because we had a skins match with Max, Thomas, Casey, and Stu. All of them we mentioned in the podcast earlier. So if you want to check them all out, playing some high quality skins disc golf, there's a lot of money on the line, and there was some big. I was impressed by some big putts. So very excited to get that out to you guys. We are working on a timeline. What's going to work best for ace runners and who put up a bunch of cash and obviously Park Pro. So we don't want to spread ourselves too thin, but we do want to get this one out to you guys because it's going to be great.
Yeah, and I wasn't there, and I didn't see it, so I don't know anything that happened, but I do have a couple of questions. One is, how's the crowd? Because it sounds like high
Unreal.
population Lower Mainland, people were coming out.
Unreal. More than were in attendance for the TCO, I would say.
Yeah.
Wow. Love that.
Yeah. The atmosphere was amazing.
Totally.
The people were cheering. People were geeked to be there. There was, lineups to meet all the pros and get signatures and stuff. Yeah. It was such a cool event.
Totally.
I hope the cameras can capture the atmosphere.
That also kind of answers my second one. Do you think there's room for more skins to be covered and sponsored in Canada?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, what it takes is obviously, you need the money to get the pros out here. You need the money to attract the good players. But, if you look at places like Nationals or BC Open, these places where there's pros already in the area, you could definitely get something going on those ones. So this one, probably could have been held at TCO. There's enough good players there, but it's kind of one of those things where most of the crowds and most of the people wanted to get back home. And it just so happens that a bunch of the people that went to TCO were from the Lower Mainland, and this is well promoted event from East Runners, and that's why you got those large crowds. And I'd say, I don't know, I'm not super great at estimating, but I bet there's 150 to 200 people there.
Wow. So. That is pretty dang good. Yeah, I wonder if there's a way you could work it in. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was thinking for sure over 100. And I think partly what worked about it, obviously the Thomas Gilbert factor. The man is beloved in his home country, and he talked about that with us, about how amazing it is to come home to Canada every once in a while and recharge, because, he gets to see his family and friends, and also, people know who he is on a larger scale in the US, and I'm sure he gets a lot of love and recognition down there. But I think there's a different kind of thing when you're an appreciated and admired athlete from Canada competing on a world stage, proudly from Canada. Like, those people generally get a different kind of treatment when they're up here, and I think that's amazing. So a lot of it was the Thomas Gilbert effect. But also it was, on a Monday. So it's one evening in a week instead of having to commit a whole weekend and traveling somewhere. And I think there's a big appetite for, hey, there's a one night event. I can go meet a pro, or, like a clinic or something like that. I think there's a lot more opportunities for sort of one-off events where, maybe you can't get people during the tour season, but at the, in the shoulder seasons of the tour, or in a blank spot in the tour or something like that, somebody could come up for a day or two, maybe not commit to a whole tournament. But I think something like a skins match would be something that would be easy to replicate in other cities around the country.
Yeah, absolutely. And I even was thinking like pre-tournament skins. Get your camera gear tested out, give it a quick film, see if someone will put a couple bucks up, and then if it's a big tournament like nationals, everybody's already down there from Wednesday on or Tuesday on or whatever. Just like they run the
OTB skins.
no, but also the funny one with the Mr. Sexton.
Oh, the practice rounds?
The practice rounds.
I want to say pros versus Joes, but that's not what it's called.
Oh, champs versus chumps.
Champs versus chumps. Because they used to always film that on a Thursday, and people are already there. It's in the evening. They've already played their practice round. They want something to do. And then you get 150 disc golfers following you around. Great exposure for people. And yeah, you've got a captive audience already.
Totally.
Also, it made money for Central Coast. So,
yes. I know it's really close to Central Coast. Park Pro.
Yep. Definitely something to workshop, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, we're very excited about that one. Hopefully we can get that out to you guys soon. But for sure by the BC Open, we're playing around with the idea of maybe making a release at the BC Open so we can get some players into the shop at Ace Runners while they're at the tournament to do a big screening there. So, but that's a conversation that we're going to have with John at Ace Runners and try to figure that out. So, yeah. Very excited about that one. On more Park Pro updates, we still have Falcons Fight coming out, and I will say that it will be out after this weekend. And we also have Rocket Bear coming out at some point as well. And obviously we have TCO to edit, so that is sort of taking our priority because we want to get these out as fast as we can. But the Falcons Fight, I'm excited because and this is something maybe I kind of want to get your opinion on, Jesse, and obviously our listeners. I want to get your guys' opinion on it. So comment on YouTube and let us know what you think. But Matt and I are playing around with the idea of releasing coverage on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And the reason for this is because, you get this Disc Golf Pro Tours. People love watching the pros play on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. That happens and it ends Sunday. So, we want to be able to keep our listeners and our viewers engaged throughout after the weekend. So would you watch disc golf on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday if it was Canadian content, or would you prefer it to be competing with those Disc Golf Pro Tours? Like, what do you think?
That's a tough call because I'm honestly busy enough that I'm not watching a heck of a lot of coverage. I will say I watch coverage most often on weeknights before bed and Sunday morning with breakfast. I typically don't watch post as soon as it comes out or anything like that. But I think that advice might not be the greatest for the entire market.
No, totally. I mean, you're just one small piece of it, right? I mean, you're a big piece of it, but like...
Am I big, Andre?
Man.
No, I meant like...
heavy boy?
I meant not physically, just...
You saw I'm small.
You're just
No pleasing you.
borderline 1.5 men. That's all I'm saying. Oh!
Right in the heart. Just like all the cholesterol. No.
Because of the size of your personality.
That's more what I was going for.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You're larger than life.
Thank you.
If you had a middle name, it would be The. You'd just be Jesse the Tamalti.
Isn't that like a Vietnamese middle name?
Possibly.
Could be. Yeah.
God, my middle name's Ryan. Jesse Ryan. It's like the most vanilla 90s boy name ever.
There's a lot of people named Ryan as well. So
A lot of disc golfers.
yeah. But yeah, let us know what you think in the comments. If you're listening on Spotify, head over to the YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and let us know what you think.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I mean, these are all days of the week.
And you could be watching disc golf on all of them. I mean, you can watch whenever you want, but as far as releasing it.
That's a good point.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, a bird brain moment. Did we give them a word for the Instagram after all that talking we
yeah.
did? I forgot it already.
Here it is again. Disc
followed by a
golf
park.
Oh, goodness.
park.
Because that's not a word. I was looking for one.
Yeah, there you go. Right. One last thing on this Canadian Disc Golf Tour is we've officially started. Like that was TCO. That was it. That was the first event of the Canadian Disc Golf Tour. So we officially have a standings, and we will reveal the last couple of tournaments here right now. Coverage coming out this after this weekend for Falcons Flight. Falcons Flight will be a part of the Canadian Disc Golf Tour. There you go.
He's reaching for the button. I know he's reaching for the button.
For it.
I totally forgot.
And,
I'm sorry.
And yeah, there you go. And the last tournament, the biggest tournament, the one that people know the most is, and we're very happy to announce this, the Canadian National Championship.
Boom.
There you go. Played in Thunder Bay, so that one's going to be a blast. I mean, they're all going to be a blast, but that one I'm really looking forward to. I've never been to a nationals event, so this will be awesome to cover it. So, and I think we can say this as well, as we will have all 3 rounds of MPO and FPO of that one. So,
I love the full 3 of FPO as well. Just like getting all the best out there.
So with that being said, if you're interested in helping us out with camera work at nationals in Thunder Bay, reach out to us. Let us know. Send us an email. Send us a DM. You know, we'd love to have as many hands as we can because, you know, it takes a team to make this stuff happen.
Especially if you happen to be from the eastern half of the country.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. And
before we close out the Canadian spot, thank you very much to the tournament directors of the TCO.
Yes.
And the staff.
Awesome.
Yep. Carrie, Chad, and I know the shoe swap slinger himself, Brett Hanna, did a lot of the prep work and stuff over at Logan Lake. And I saw my boy Colin McDaniel playing spotter at Rose Hill. And thank you to Ace Runners and everybody that made the skins possible as well. I know it's a couple different groups of people, but you are all the things that make disc golf happen in Western Canada, and I love you for it. Thank you.
Yeah, and honestly,
courses were in great shape too.
Totally.
It's the kind of thing that you don't talk about because you just show up and you play disc golf. But if you stop and think about it, the OBs were marked extremely well. Everything was like immaculate, you know, wild, but also manicured. It was, really nice.
Oh yeah. We've spent enough time on weed whackers and restringing OB and doing all that kind of stuff, getting Raven's Nest ready, and that's one course, and they did 3.
Mm-hmm.
Really impressive stuff.
Yeah, and while they might not be sponsors of the podcast, we also have to give a shout out to Dynamic Disc and Okanagan Disc Supply for their support of the TCO as well. So thank you so much. It takes, you know, obviously this stuff isn't free to do, so it goes a long ways. And that being said, if you are interested in advertising in the digital, any digital advertising on coverage, let us know, because we do have some spots available for the TCO. You know, we can send you our deck and get your brand out there.
Because it's going to be one that people will watch, especially that final round is holy moly.
The numbers off of last year's are, I think, the best we've had, and that's before announcing all these Canadian Pro Tour stuff. So, this will be the one people put their eyes on. And as someone that was frantically refreshing the scores in the final 9 of the final round, there will be a lot of eyes on this coverage. I guarantee it.
Totally. Yeah. All right. That takes us to our ad read. I just want to say thank you. Big thanks to DiscGolfPark. DiscGolfPark is a unique disc golf course concept developed in Finland in 2005. It is based on the idea of building sports facilities in an environmentally friendly way. DiscGolfPark provides great experiences for players of all skill levels, from beginners to professionals. Our main ideology is to introduce disc golf to new audiences. There are several options to suit any kind of course, and all official Disc Golf Park include professional and safe course design, Disc Golf Park Pro targets, tee pads and tee signs, and an info board to welcome players to your course. The Disc Golf Park World concept consists of multiple courses designed for different types of players. Multi-golf is a new fun activity for the whole family. In multi-golf, 3 forms of golf are played: foot golf, disc golf, and park-style pitch and putt. School Disc Golf Park offers students a new and exciting form of exercise for the physical education class. A course suitable for schools can be designed even in a small area, for instance, a schoolyard. Furthermore, the costs of school disc golf park are lower than those of regular disc golf parks. We also offer private and group lessons or clinics. For more information, check out the website at discgolfpark.com and request a quote today. There you go.
And DM it to our Instagram.
You know what my favorite thing about Disc Golf Park is? If you get Disc Golf Park baskets installed on a course nearby, you will not get a spit through on the chains. I don't think it's in the writing, and don't hold me to it, and it's not true, but in an unofficial, superstitious capacity, not based in fact, you will never get a spit through on those baskets.
We are never getting past TCO, but now I got to talk about it again because the Rose Hill disc catchers are the old 24 chain models.
Oh, yeah.
And I know for a fact there's a few egregious spit throughs, and as well, our boy Noah Higgins, who putts with a lot of pace, got like 3 or 4 spit backs off the pole at him, which is just crazy.
Well, hey, the man's got to learn to dial it back a little bit.
Soften it up a little
We
bit.
talked about it in commentary. He's for the hardest putter in Alberta, probably.
Playing that Lethbridge wind, it's a skill, but tone it down.
Yeah, he's
when
got
you're
those
at,
prodigy like super cage baskets and high winds in Lethbridge. You got to change up your putting when you go somewhere else.
Love the confidence, though. Holy.
Totally.
Anyway,
I wish I could putt that hard. I don't putt softer than that because I choose to. I'm physically incapable of putting that hard. I would if I could.
Yeah. I think it's fun that these, one of my favorite things about Disc Golf Park being a sponsor is that we always kind of lean towards a little bit of design talk, and it's one of my favorite topics in disc golf. And I just kind of want to bring this back to our Scott Stokely interview because, it's a great interview and he talks about, putting on older chains and stuff. But during the long trip, I listened to his book with Sean. We started off with Sean and then I finished it on the way back by myself. It's a great book. It's super interesting, especially as a newer disc golfer to get to know Scott a little bit before the Scott that I know now, and kind of base stuff off of his story and less of what maybe what his reputation, the reputation that preceded him. So it's a really interesting read, and it's really good to understand where disc golf came from. And he does a really good job of telling that. And, he's very candid and very honest about, his life and what the sport was like back in the day. And it's a very good read. But I think one of the cool takeaways was, just as far as the design stuff. And he's talking about how these courses went from these small par threes. And then, guys like John Howe came and started designing actual golf courses is kind of how he referred to them. The pars went up and distance went up, and it's all really cool. And then obviously one of those things that he talks about is the baskets, the evolution of baskets themselves, and how, back in the day you had to putt soft because, there was very few chains. So
yeah, it's an interesting thing because I know I was on a podcast a couple of years ago, Macbeth talking about how he doesn't like the Prodigy chains or the Mach X chains because essentially it means every putt goes in as hard as you hit it. And in a traditional golf sense, if you're to hit the ball at the hole as hard as you can, it's going to bounce out and roll over. And it should potentially require some higher level of finesse than just smash it into the chains.
Mm-hmm. And you don't hear golfers saying, "Oh, the hole! What are these holes? I hate this brand of hole."
Yeah.
If you missed, it's because you missed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just
like
thought that
that
was an interesting thing.
We're gonna have to have a basket size and shape debate one of these days. Because I've got ideas and feelings.
Macbeth wants to shrink them.
I can't argue with the GOAT.
I can argue with the GOAT because okay, this will be another 2-hour talk. So I'm going to leave it here for people that are listening, and for you guys, maybe we'll have like a serious talk next week. But our sport is different, and that's not a problem. And I'm going to leave it at that.
All right. Tune in next week.
Yeah.
For Jesse gets ripped apart for his stupid opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, we do have a couple of other tournaments I wanted to make a note on. The Harvest Huck general registration opens May 15th, and the reason that they bring this up is it's a B tier here in BC, and it's got 10,000 added cash, and I think they're trying to up that cash like daily. Like they're working hard to make this one of the biggest events in BC. It's also BC provincials this year, so that's going to be a big one. Just make sure you sign up for that. I know I will be refreshing as fast as I can. We are also trying and hoping we can get coverage of this one, but it's kind of all up in the air at this point, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully we find out before May 15th, because otherwise I'm going to register. So
It's tough. If you're at a tournament and you want to get filmed, talk to us this year
yes,
about your next year's tournament, because our
Yes.
summers are starting to get real full real fast.
exactly. The other big tournament that's coming up is one that's been, I don't know how long it's been running, but Spring Runoff is this weekend. So that's the B tier in Lethbridge, Alberta. And yeah, go check
We
out
won't be
our
doing
coverage
coverage
of
of this year, unfortunately. But
it. No, not this year, but we did have coverage of it last year. So before you go play in that event, or if you just want to check out what that event's all about, go check out our single camera coverage of Spring Runoff on our YouTube channel. And the last, and certainly not the least, is that the Canadian women's events across the country are starting this weekend. I don't think they're all. I don't think every single one is this weekend, but they are. This is kind of the kickoff of it. So, yeah,
Yeah, I'm really glad they did something to bridge the gap between the global women's event years. It's not like the gals stop playing disc golf when it's not a global women's year. So yeah, I'm glad it's a celebration of women's disc golf and everything that means, and I think that's a really important thing for the sport. So I'm glad they've got something organized.
yeah, definitely. And I think it's an interesting point that my brother. I keep bringing up my brother. For those that don't know, I have 4 brothers, and each time I reference a brother, it's usually a different brother. So I managed to stop into Vernon and played with my youngest brother, and he was talking about how busy the courses have gone and how it's like it's not uncommon to see just like, you know, 1 or 2 girls playing by themselves and you know, going and yeah, checking out the course. And there's a lot more women playing the sport, and these events are just a great way for those women that, you know, might be interested in taking their game to the next level and trying to see what tournaments are all about. And, you know, you don't necessarily need to be super competitive. The tournaments for me personally, I, you know, obviously like to win, but it's more about the experience. And so, you know, it's tournaments like these when you can have women, all women come to these events and feel comfortable around each other. That's just awesome for the sport. So
one of my favorite experiences from the TCO weekend was in the parking lot after the FPO had finished their round and just before we were getting ready to film the final MPO card, was 2 of the FPO competitors talking about how great it was to meet each other after only knowing each other through social media for so long. And it was just like this really genuine, heartwarming moment of joy that, yeah, I'm always going to remember that. So those are the kind of experiences that you can have. It's competition is like the setting, but it certainly doesn't have to be the whole story of your weekend. If you go to a tournament, if you want it to be, you know, a social experience and getting out and meeting new people, which we haven't done enough of in the last few years, it can be about that. You just happen to be keeping scores at the same time.
Yeah,
totally.
it's like it's a forced adult play date, really, is what it is. It's like, hey, we put all the names in a hat, and you're playing with these 3 people. Go do your favorite thing together.
Yeah,
Like,
pretty much.
how could you not be friends after?
Yeah. So if you can still register, I believe most of them are closing by the time this episode released. But if you can, go check out your local Canadian women's event. It's well worth it. And while we're on this women's talk, Jonesboro, I want to talk about Jonesboro a little bit because we haven't had a chance to talk about it. I want to talk about FPO. The playoff between Haley King came down Haley King and Kat Mersch. Kat, the emotion that, like, the emotion that Kat let out when she won this event, like I was like starting to tear up because you could tell it meant a lot to her. She brought her niece on camera, and it was super, super heartwarming. It was such an awesome moment. If you haven't gone to check it out, definitely go check that out.
Dude, that freaked me out.
She did scream pretty
Dude,
loudly.
like the roar she let
It
out,
was
all the
primal.
outpour, totally. I've been so ice cold and so dead inside for so long that I was just beside myself that she had that much in her.
Yeah.
But that's gotta be one of the reasons why she won. To want it that bad. Holy moly. And yeah, to win it in her home state like that in front of everybody, that you couldn't write it any better.
Yeah. It was amazing. I'm comfortable enough in my masculinity to say I straight up had tears coming down my face. I'm not even going to couch it and say I was about to cry or I was starting to cry. I had actual tears come leak out of my eyeballs.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
You're not the only one.
They were made out of whiskey because I am not that comfortable in my masculinity, but still, no, it was one of the most emotional things I've seen in the Pro Tour, and there's been a few of them for sure. But yeah, it's seeing somebody that really wants something achieve it after years of hard work is if you don't have feelings after watching that, you just don't have feelings.
Yeah. And the one thing that I found the most impressive is, she let all that energy out. How did she contain that during those playoffs? Like,
Yeah.
that's just insane to me. Like that you have to be so focused, so dialed in to have that much come out. Like, I don't know.
I guess pressure makes some people crack and it fuels some people, and she's one of the people that use it as fuel because she was powering through there.
Yeah.
And also the final 9 was a battle too.
Yes.
Right. Haley King was crushing huge putts to be part of it. And yeah, it truly did mount into this epic moment. Unfortunately, I don't think Haley played that playoff hole the way she wanted to.
No.
But nonetheless, the battle was played in regulation and just decided by the playoff.
Totally. Yeah, and then on the MPO side, Calvin wins again. This one was pretty tight. I remember hearing somewhere like this was his biggest margin of victory or something in the last little while. And it's like 3 strokes or something. He's always won by a stroke besides the Silver Series event.
But it was only really because Eagle he had a tough drive and he had to make like a couple of hero shots and decided to go for the hero shots to go for the win or go for the tie. So functionally it was only really 1 or 2.
Exactly. But yeah, cool to see Calvin on top again. And I think he took take it for what you will. He took the first place in the UDisc world rankings. So
I don't think you have to take it for what you will. I think you just have to accept it now. That I was questioning it, saying because Gannon was winning early and Kyle Klein was playing well, that it was up in the air. I think Calvin's the man, and it's not a question anymore.
Yeah, you have to get through them in order to win. So
it's also fun that Eagle, like, aside from a leaky shot here or there, is starting to once again kind of look like that Eagle McMahon that, like, if he was in the field, like 50-50 chance he could win one. There's like a half a year to a year where he was like, oh boy, like, how is anybody going to beat this guy? And he's kind of starting to get back to that now.
Yeah, I think we might see a more full schedule out of him, be a little healthier now that he's eating meat and staying strong and doing all the good stuff. I don't think you'll see a tournament where Eagle's not in contention unless something weird goes on.
Yeah.
We try not to cover anything too controversial here. And I want to preface this by saying I don't really give a crap about what anybody eats or doesn't eat. It's the least of my concern. But it was pretty funny that when he announced that he was no longer vegan, it was like the most serious thing in the world. And it's like, it was just like, I don't know, if I had resumed eating peanut butter, I don't think I could get away with making like a 10-minute super serious video. Like, the thumbnail on the YouTube video for him like coming out as a meat eater was like it was like he had to announce that he had murdered his own puppy or something.
Yeah, the face.
Yeah, like, and I think that is a function of people really caring about what other people eat. So
Totally.
people, you got to stop caring about what people eat, because there's no reason why Eagle McMahon needs to do a 10-minute long video, like semi-apologetic, telling people that he's going to eat meat sometimes.
Well, I bet that got the views though.
I mean, any choice like that, there's been a lot of tribalism in the last decade or so. So you're the meat team, or you're the bean team, or you're, and I don't think it makes you a good guy or bad guy or otherwise. I think you should eat what makes you healthy and happy, and that's the end of it. But I will say, if anyone gets the reference, Santa Cruzmas, best holiday of the year, and it's because Eagle's a vegan. Nope, neither of you get it.
Nope.
Starter Pack Challenge, Central Coast Disc Golf, maybe 2016.
I watched that.
Eagle, so I do a skit where Paul and Nate are in the van together, and Nate's going, "Wake up, Paul! Wake up, Paul! It's Santa Cruzmas," because they're in California, and they open starter packs from Innova, and then Eric Oakley in Eagle's van is next door, and Eric, pretending to be groggy, "Eagle, wake up! It's Santa Cruzmas," and he like wakes up in like a daze and goes, "I'm a vegan." That's the first thing that comes out of his mouth.
I totally forgot about that. Doesn't one of
Great
them get a
moment.
watermelon as a present?
Yeah, and Eagle throws the watermelon out the window of the RV. Yeah. Great classic disc golf moment.
Man, Central Coast used to be fun, man.
Yeah.
We got to do more fun disc challenges. We've talked to a couple people about that lately, and like I feel like we got to make room. I've got a whole bunch of weird ass discs, and I've filmed weird ass disc rounds, and it's fun. And I think we got to figure out a way to get, like we were talking about a skins event, we got to figure out a way to get some like funky disc challenge rounds in as well at some point.
A Roby
once a
ring
year.
only challenge.
Yeah.
A what?
A Roby ring challenge
Oh yeah.
on a big course, because I think they go pretty far.
Yeah.
I've got like 4 or 5 Yikun overmold discs now.
Ooh. Those could be
Nice.
spicy too.
We were saying that maybe if you're taking part, we'll just blur your face out, so it doesn't seem like you're part of Discmania.
Yeah.
Oh,
we were
they'd
like,
have no
okay, we'll
issue
get
with that.
Jesse in there and we'll have all the weird Discmania discs. And then we realized they don't really have a lot of like weird discs.
And anything that was kind of weird has been out of production for so long.
Yeah.
You could throw gremlins, the wide diameter mid ranges or something, but there's
Right.
actually people like those. No,
I
I think you
haven't-
go a Roby rings and for tee shots and turbo putters for putting and send it.
Yeah.
Now we're talking.
Love it. You don't want to putt with an aerobie ring?
Or do you, no, I know all the weird discs. I want to spice it up. The Wheel is another Quest AT disc.
Oh, yeah.
Which is like the same on the bottom as it is on the top, and it's supposed to be for throwing rollers that roll straight and don't fall over to one side or something.
I mean, you go as far as you could do the discs that they use for like double disc court. They're like
Oh, yeah.
super lightweight, super
Yeah, like the little fastback.
super understable. Yeah, be interesting. Lots of
Drive
these.
with putters, putt with drivers.
So my game wouldn't change.
We
Of
could
course
drill
it'd be the same.
holes in discs. We could let us know in the comments. What would be a fun challenge that you haven't seen before? I'm not
MVP
talking
flight
about-
plate only. Cut the overmold off so you only get the little bump where they connect to each other for the rim. Not gyro anymore, are you?
Love
MVP ring only would be a fun one too.
it. Yeah.
Extra
Oh, yeah.
gyro
Actually, that
effects.
would be pretty good.
Try and pull the guts out of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
that
digging
would
it.
go nowhere. But big wing driver with nothing in the middle, so you have like, boy,
Do you think toonies fly further than loonies?
more aerodynamic.
Because they got the overmold technology in the toonie.
Oh, that too. I wasn't even thinking about that.
Awesome. Yeah, it brings a whole new definition to a tuning round or a loony round.
Yeah.
Playing for toonies, playing for loonies. Anyways, we have the OTB Open coming up this weekend. I love this tournament mostly because it is we listen to a lot of people talk about Sean Black and the kind of stuff that they're doing here obviously he's the tournament director, but it's a very spectator driven stop. So I mean, the stuff that they're doing is kind of cutting edge and setting a standard for what it means to be a spectator of these kind of sports. The disc golf itself is a little more wide open typically. Big arms tend to do well. Should be a good watch this weekend.
Yeah, lots of rollers coming your way. If the course is anything like last year. And you are right. Max was saying they ship in a bunch of bleachers and things to really like set kind of a grandstand feel around some of the holes. You get a nice view and a great place to sit. Little paths all through the course for spectators so they don't interfere with play. Mm-hmm. Should be fun.
Obviously, Max is going to be down there. He flew up for the TCO in the skins match, and he's going back down to play in this. And hopefully, he made it. I mean, I haven't. Should probably message him, see how he's doing on his drive, because he flew back down to Phoenix and then he was driving over. So,
yeah, lots of travel for that guy. Holy macaroni! But that's the life, I guess.
That's it. Yeah, he's the only Canadian in the field. So. In both MPO and FPO, which, I mean, it's the start of the Western swing, so you're not going to see a lot of those. I feel like most of the ladies that have gone down to play a tournament here and there have been from the East Coast, or from the East. So
yeah, I don't think we'll see Julie with her new child.
I don't think
doing too much, but you could maybe see like a pop down to Portland or something.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah,
hopefully,
we'll see.
And
obviously, I mean, we can mention the news, the big news. Well, there's two big news. We'll start with Gannon Burr's lawsuit has dropped. Mm-hmm. He's officially with Prodigy for the rest of the year, and they're gonna play it out. And apparently, the CEO was on his bag at Jonesboro, something along those lines. So hopefully, they can hash that out, and either it'll be interesting if after all of this, if he just ends up re-signing there.
Yeah, I spoke with Casey on the drive down to TCO, and he said the part of Prodigy that changed hands or whatever, the new CEO guy that's attached to it, I want to say he's the CEO or whatever. He's a very business-minded guy, and he wasn't the type of guy that was going to lay down and have that stuff happen around his company.
Yeah.
He's not there just to own a chunk of a disc golf company for the sake of it. He wants to push it forward, and in his business world, that was the right move. And I can't necessarily disagree with him with how big the business of disc golf is getting.
Totally. Yeah, and the other big news. Oh, unless you got, what do you got?
I kind of was 100% wrong with how that was going to play out. I thought that was going to be an intractable situation, and that that neither party would want to have to go through that for the whole rest of the season, and that they'd figure something out, and a third party would want to step in and have a chance to sign Gannon before he was out of contract. And I thought that would be worth it enough that somebody would be able to negotiate in like an exit fee, basically. And it didn't happen. And it's, I'm shocked. I'm surprised. I'm never, ever wrong. Don't go back to the old episodes, but I'm never, ever wrong about anything. I was super wrong about this. And it would be a heck of a coup if they were managed to rebuild the relationship enough that he would resign. It sounds like he is sort of just looking for whoever wants to give him the biggest contract in the off season. I know he said it's not about the money, but so does every athlete. And I get the impression that if Prodigy wants to go to bat and they see more value in him than any of the other manufacturers do, then he might stay with Prodigy. It's crazy.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's one thing I was going to mention, is that it tells you what parts of his issues were the truest and which were maybe not so much, because if his equipment was impossible to use because of the poor quality stuff he was claiming, one, I doubt he'd be as successful as he was this year. Two, he wouldn't be interested in re-signing if he didn't think he could play with it. I think what happened is he wanted his value recognized. They recognized his value. Suddenly they got a lot more friendly.
Yep. And who knows? Maybe there was some money involved.
Well, they offered a mid-season re-sign with better value to him, and I'm sure he took the pay raise.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and then obviously the other big news is that in the FPO division, the lawsuit from Natalie Ryan was won by Natalie, so she will be playing in that division come tomorrow. So It's an interesting new development, and I guess we'll see what happens from along here. But no matter what side of the coin you sit on, it's she'll be playing, and I think it'll be interesting to see how she does. So
Yeah, she had a pretty direct social media post saying thank you to the judge for giving me the opportunity to play, and she's got a whole new fire in her to try and win this one. So, I hope she backs up the statement and plays really well. It would be a little anticlimactic if she got 35th here, but I got a feeling if she's as driven as she's letting on, she's been practicing every day waiting for this moment to make a big splash.
totally. Yeah, and it's
She
not
didn't
like
win
she hasn't.
and feel free to step in and lawyer talk, Jesse, as somebody that lives with a lawyer, but she didn't win a lawsuit. She just won an injunction that will allow her to play. It's basically like, hey, this legal issue is by no means settled, but this can't. The fact that that's not settled shouldn't preclude me from being able to compete at this event.
Right.
So a lawsuit is not over. It was an injunction that was filed for and granted. So
Yeah, there's nothing precedent setting that's going to affect the future of the game in California or anything. But essentially, she got the thumbs up for this one.
Yeah. Thanks for clarifying that, Matt. I'm the one thing that I heard there was at the previous tournament that there was an A tier that she was playing at. There was a protest, and it was like interesting because it was a protest at the disc golf course for this specific issue. I'm curious if something like that's going to happen here, and how will that affect play, and not just her play, but the rest of the division as well. Because this is gonna weigh. It's gonna have a lot of weight on everyone's minds, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, the court of public opinion can be pretty vicious, but it also doesn't tell anybody what they can or can't do. It just makes things a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That said, should we talk about the FPO women and their document?
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the...
Yeah, so I guess the pro women released a somewhat legal statement.
It's a legal document as part of the whole lawsuit.
Yeah,
and that's why it's public knowledge.
Exactly. It's filed as such. What do they call it? The declaration, the Women's Disc Golf Stockton Declaration of Women's Disc Golfers. Essentially, it's a document stating that they do not wish to play or have biological males in their division because of the advantages that they may have, regardless of their transition. And it's signed by 44 FPO players, including about 20 of the top 40 players in the world, including many of your favorite disc golfers at home that you might not have thought had a political opinion on this. It's kind of the first time we've seen high-level pros speaking out about it, other than Katrina Allen, who's obviously been quite vocal about it and is the kind of head of their little committee they have here now. Having read it, I will say it might be one of the worst written documents I've ever read in my life. There was a punctuation mistake after the first word, and I mentally checked out bad enough that I had to wait for 2 hours to come back to it and start to read it again. But their point they're making is quite clear, regardless of the poor writing.
Wording. Yeah, totally.
It's going to be tough. And I hate that if the court sides with Natalie, she now gets to know that no one wants her there. And it's such a weird thing for me that on a it's political, it's personal, and it's to do with the sport as well. And they all could have potentially different outcomes. Mm-hmm. It's not your human right to play the sport, but you should be respected and treated with dignity all the time. And I think that the way that document was written kind of ignores that entirely. There's a very tasteless reference to Rosa Parks in there, saying that women are now at the back of the bus to transgender people, which blows my mind that anyone would ever say that.
Jesse, there's nobody more oppressed than a person getting paid to throw a frisbee, okay?
Yeah.
going to a park and throwing a frisbee for money.
Like,
If that's
that-
not oppression, I don't know what is.
yeah. Ooh, don't get me started because that'll get me really revved up. So I'm fully on team there, big sillies for saying that. At the same time, having just had to play in a hurricane and nobody else did, I feel for anyone that feels like they are playing in an unfair environment where they can't be successful because of factors that they personally can't control.
Yeah.
And then,
It's a tricky situation.
yeah,
It's an
all the
impossible
way around.
situation. It's a completely impossible situation.
yeah.
There's
so now I'm
no
sitting here on
way
both teams.
that this will be fair to everybody. And it sucks. It's just like, it sucks when there has to be situations like this where it's not going to be fair to somebody.
Well, yeah.
We
Disc golf
we
is for
gotta
everybody.
Figure it out as a sport, and then we got to keep evolving and adapting as more science comes to light, and we actually have to start thinking about things like what is fairness, and why did we divide divisions into sex protected divisions and age protected divisions, and it's like these are things that we haven't had to reckon with as people for a long time, and now we got to think about it all, and it's going to be tricky.
It's a crazy thing because there is no other sporting organization that really has this hard and fast. They're getting tweaked every year, and transgenderism in general has not been something that we've had to address historically because it was, such a infrequent occurrence in the past. And there's no manual on how to do it right. But obviously the world's changing and it needs to be addressed. It's not going to be an easy road forward.
Yeah. And I think, the old rules are just not going to be able to apply, because this idea that Natalie Ryan is a biological male is, to the best of our scientific knowledge, not true at all, in the sense that if I started taking testosterone blockers, then I'm not going to have the same athletic capacity that I did before. And does it mean that I should be competing against women? Does it mean I should be competing against men? Neither of those things is super fair to me, just from like a biological perspective. But
But now I ask you, how about you go fill the transgender division?
Good luck.
Right? There's not enough to do it, so it has to fit somewhere. And good Lord, what are we gonna do? We're gonna play by weight class soon.
Probably.
Don't say probably.
Arm span.
And there's
Actually might have a better
already a humongous range of just like inborn physiological differences between people.
Yeah.
Like Michael Phelps had like an extreme, oxygen carrying capacity well above all of his peers. And that's the kind of thing that you would normally take performance enhancing drugs to get. And
Homeboy actually has webbed toes.
And webbed toes.
Like, come on.
So it's impossible, and impossible situations are the worst, because it just means that people can argue and argue and argue and argue and argue. And the fact is, we just don't know enough. And even if we did know enough, we're just going to be making up some rules like in a semi-arbitrary way.
Yeah. And in case you're not on YouTube and you're just listening to our voices, I know it might sound like we're a little bit feminine, but we are 3 white males.
Did you just call me feminine?
No, it's referring to myself. I've always been told I have a high voice. So
what?
Yeah, apparently.
By who? Max Forgetnik?
People literally called him Thunder in high school because his voice was so low.
Yeah. But we are three white guys just talking about this, and we have our opinions, and everyone else has their opinions, and in the grand scheme of things, I'm at this point in time, I'm personally not affected by it, but I just, the one thing I can say is that I hope it doesn't discourage transgendered people to not play the sport, period.
Yeah.
So,
like I said, disc golf is for everybody. And I know it has saved and helped a lot of disenfranchised people. And, there's probably not a lot of transgender people out there, especially if you're, can you imagine in a small town like Invermere how alone and alienated you would be, and you found your thing in disc golf and it worked out for however many years you've been playing, and then suddenly they try and take that away from you?
Yeah.
It'd be brutal.
Yeah. It's a haven for weirdos. Hopefully it stays, at least in some respect, a haven for weirdos.
Yeah.
And I think if you do feel like you don't belong in the sport, come out anyway, in person, on casual rounds. It's one of my favorite things about the sport. They have opinions about different things. People come from different backgrounds, have wildly different political takes. But when you get out onto a cart of people playing disc golf in a casual round, you are a disc golfer. And by and large, that has been my experience, not just for me, because I am a pretty ordinary looking cis straight white guy, but I have not really seen firsthand people being excluded for any reason on the disc golf course. So in the real world, in the going out and playing a casual round, disc golf is still a pretty inclusive sport. Yeah. Just don't judge us by the internet, as with all things in life.
Yeah. Totally.
Yes, enjoy listening to this podcast on the internet.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think that's all I got. You guys got anything else?
I usually try and come up with something here, but maybe if you've got a crazy weather disc golf story that's fun, throw it in the comments on YouTube, and we'd love to read them on our next outing. And I'll give you one. That's the second strongest winds I've thrown a Frisbee in, because I threw a Frisbee in Hurricane Dorian on PEI. I threw a 2-speed Swan about 650 feet. Let's go.
Wow. Forward?
Nice.
Yeah, forward. Lots of tailwind, threw it straight in the air. It was perfect.
Awesome. Cool. All
right.
Join the Patreon.
Yeah.
We mentioned some of these discs that we have. You can't see. Well, actually, you can kind of see them in this stack right here. That's giveaway discs. Jesse's got 3 more at his place. Matt's got a couple at his place. We got lots of stuff that we're giving away in the next little bit, and some of it will be Patreon only. So join the Patreon.
You know what? We got 2 discs from one of the participants at the Skins event, and I think we could designate one of those 2 discs to the patrons. What do you think?
I agree.
They're the same mold, same stamp, different plastic, but 2 signed discs from one of the participants.
There you go.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And hey, maybe I'll throw in a Team Discmania stamp.
Oh shit! Oh, the disc.
Maybe like an
stamp?
FD1 or a
foil?
CD1, one of these new ones that not a lot of people have yet. We'll see how many people jump in on this Alien Disc Golf giveaway, and if you guys are being good, maybe we'll throw another one in there.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
So, follow us on Instagram at ParkPro, at Jesse.Tmalty, at Matt Lysick.
Don't follow me. I don't post
Hey.
anything.
It's not on screen anymore. I just noticed that.
I know. I got to put those back up there.
Looks kind of nice and clean.
It's clean. It's clean.
How are all the porn bots going to know where to find me now?
Follow us on Instagram. Subscribe to us on YouTube. We have a Twitter account. Follow us on Twitter. And become a patron. It's for as little as $1.50 a month. So set that maximum, because we will have a lot of content coming out this summer. So
It's like a pay as you go thing. It's like that's the ultimate way to just be like, are you a $7.80 a month person? That can be you.
yeah, and by mistake, I think I forgot to post the last couple of podcasts on there. So you're gonna get some content that you're not gonna have to pay for. So it's great.
And if you're a
if we get
patron,
20
you're gonna win.
patrons,
You're gonna win stuff.
I'll grow a unibrow. No.
All right.
I'll still do. I was going to do the handlebar mustache. I'll still do that for 25. I'm going to keep that. You should have a whiteboard behind you,
Yeah.
like a
Right above
cool
here, right
hipster
here.
podcast. Yeah, for the Patreon goals, so we
Patron
don't
counter.
forget.
Goofy body modification page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I will shave my mustache. Let's just stick with that.
All right.
This got off the rails.
Awesome.
Hey, listen, from all of us here at Park Pro, be cool, okay?
Okay.
Okay.